let's start with a really powerful question. What if the person history just forgets is the exact person who held your life in her hands on an operating table?
It's a shocking thought, isn't it?
And it is right at the heart of Kristin Hannah's book, The Women. We're going to be unpacking the essential insights from it today, focusing on war, memory, and service.
And for you listening, this isn't just about a novel. It's really a way to understand the very real dilemmas about who gets remembered and why.
Exactly. The dilemmas around justice, history, all of it.
So where should we start?
Let's get into the first big insight. The book it completely reframes our idea of a war story.
It really does. And it all begins with the protagonist, Frankie McGrath.
Right. She's from a conservative background, and she joins the Army Nurse Corps after someone tells her women can be heroes too.
And that one idea it shifts the entire focus. Suddenly we're not watching the soldier with the rifle.
We're watching the nurse.
The nurse with surgical tools trying to hold everything together. This is where courage gets completely redefined.
It's no longer about pulling a trigger.
Not at all. It's the relentless emotional labor of triage, of keeping pressure on a wound while the building is shaking around you. It's a totally different kind of courage.
Which directly challenges the classic war narrative.
It's a direct challenge. And it reflects the real struggle of female Vietnam nurses who came home and had to fight for any kind of recognition at all.
So Frankie becomes incredibly skilled in the chaos over there. She's hyper-competent.
Absolutely. But the thing that almost breaks her, it doesn't actually happen in Vietnam.
It happens when she gets home.
When she comes back to a deeply polarized America that's just so hostile to veterans. She experiences severe post-traumatic stress, flashbacks, substance misuse.
But there's another layer to her pain, because she's also being told, sometimes implicitly, sometimes right to her face.
Women weren't in Vietnam.
Exactly.
And that right there, that's what we can call the double wound. It's not just the trauma of war. It's that second compounding injury of being completely and totally disbelieved.
So she's forced to carry two burdens.
Two immense burdens. The burden of what she saw, and the burden of a society that refuses to acknowledge she even saw it.
That kind of denial is it's brutal.
Right.
So how does a person even begin to rebuild from that?
The answer, and this is really the core of the book, is friendship.
Her solidarity with the other nurses, Ethel and Barb.
Yes. In Vietnam, they survived on shared dark humor and pure competence. But back in the States, that friendship becomes something else entirely.
It becomes a lifeline.
A total lifeline, because all the formal institutions failed her. Family, the government, everyone.
But her friends didn't.
They became her entire support system. They gave her housing, care, and maybe most importantly, dignity. Their solidarity wasn't just a comfort, it was essential infrastructure for survival.
And that infrastructure, that idea of building your own support, it leads toward the book's conclusion.
It does. Later on, Frankie helps create a refuge in Montana, specifically for women veterans, a place where their stories can finally be told and believed.
But the ultimate confrontation is with public memory, right?
It is. It happens at the 1982 unveiling of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C., the Wall.
Which is such a powerful symbol of public acknowledgement.
Incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
But the book uses it to ask a really tough question. The monument validates service, yes, but whose service?
Does it risk leaving the essential work of women in the background because their names aren't carved on that wall?
Precisely. It forces you to think about who gets carved into the stone of history and who gets left in the footnotes.
So the core journey in The Women is that fight for recognition. Acknowledgement of service that was critical both under fire and for years after the war ended.
It is. So we'll leave you with a final thought to carry with you.
Okay.
If a society's memorials and textbooks only highlight certain traditionally defined kinds of heroism, what does that do to our moral imagination?
What does it do to how we define a hero?
Exactly. Who do we as a culture decide counts? And who, as a result, is quietly deemed expendable?